All right, guys, welcome to Onelife Podcast. Here with Ryan. Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
Pleasure.
Welcome.
He's a certified Wim Hof instructor, right? Sure. One of 650 in the world.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so excited to talk to you. I live and breathe the cold, the ice, cold showers. I'm getting into breath work. I can't wait to pick your brain and share it with everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, my story didn't start with Wim Hof method, definitely. It started with other things. But as far as I know, I think there might be one other instructor in Utah, which is where I live in southern Utah. And I don't know that there is any others in Nevada, maybe. But
oh, really?
But not teaching in Vegas, for certainly. There's not. So really, this region is I will call it untapped. But yeah, I started breathing deliberately. Obviously I started deliberating when I came out the womb, right? But I started breathing deliberately to create my life way before that. And it was a matter of creation, a matter of really tapping into that pause, that sacred pause, some people would call it.
Sacred pause.
A sacred pause, just saying, let me hold on a second. And I can tell the story if you want to hear it, but it really was like, we feel that way when we're stressed, right? Where we go, and we do that. But instead of thinking of that as like an aggressive breath, think of it as a sacred pause. It's me saying, I'm taking a minute from between the thoughts, noticing tension there, which is a mindful moment, right? That's
noticing tension there.
I'm noticing tension, and really that's the first step in healing in anything, is noticing that there's tension in your mind, taking a breath, even though it was not deliberate at that point. When I was doing that, it was because I was stressed. I was feeling depressed. Didn't know what else to do other than just, but that was that sacred pause that started me on this path. And that night, I can summarize that night, but I was frustrated with work, frustrated with job, with schooling. I was frustrated with life. I was drinking a lot. I was not knowing what I wanted to do with my life because my life had been sort of told to me rather than me experiencing it. It was like, you will do this. You're going to be a physician and you're going to go in the Navy and you're going to do these things.
So you're a military physician in the Navy for 10 years, correct?
Right.
Okay.
And
so you've been told what to do. You've been pressured to kind of go that route.
Follow this, do your thing.
Which most people are going through that, right? Go to school, go to college, get this, your parents' expectations.
I think most people fall into that role.
100%. I feel like I did until I started reading too.
Yeah, I think most people fall into that role because you got to think of yourself as a juvenile. You're not sure what life has in store for you, and nor are you sure, most of us, what we're capable of.
Or what possibilities are out there too, right?
Right.
Because it's governed by what your parents teach you, which comes from what their parents have taught you.
And the environment that you live in. I think that our environment also molds us quite a bit. So our environment that says, this is who you are, and you should do it. So I remember going into the military and...
was your dad military or your family?
My family, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My father wasn't, but my grandfather was, and many of my uncles. And
so that monkey see, monkey do, that's what you saw.
So you do that, and then when I got out, the military does a pretty horrible job in transitioning people into what we would call real life, but transitioning out of that. So you say, okay, well now I've got this horrible transition and now I'm feeling even more lost. So I went back to school to get to work on my mental health degree. So I become a certified mental health counselor.
What made you want to do that from the military?
I knew that I wanted to serve and help people, but
was it to help yourself first and then?
No, not at that point, no.
Okay.
It was, I don't want to work in a hospital. So I'm going to do something else where I can help people, but I want to do it in a different way. So I went back to school. I took the money. I mean, the whole reason I went into the military really satisfy family expectations and to make money. Okay. I didn't have any money for college, so I needed to.
Plus, you get trained for free, don't you?
You get trained you get trained for mostly for free, and you get military money to go back to college. So I took that money. I went back to school, and I got a master's degree in clinical mental health. But at that point, I still hadn't recovered from my own PTSD. Okay, so we're rewinding here. I told you the story where I had that sacred pause, right? But really what happened is, and I went to school and I went to go work in clinical mental health. That's what you probably do if you have a degree in clinical mental health, right?
Make a lot of sense.
But I hated it. And it was because I saw too much of myself in my patients.
Okay.
And that would be maybe a way of being empathic and being very empathetic to those patients. But the problem is I was like, how am I supposed to help you if I haven't even helped myself?
So you're masking your own issues, and be doing so you're not able to help others because you haven't helped yourself.
So that's
here I am. That's pretty deep, isn't it?
Yeah, and so I did that for a couple of years before I got to that point of sacred pause. So now here we are at sacred pause, and I got in my Jeep Wrangler, and I was living in Orlando, and I said, I was crying, I was frustrated, I was drinking. This was a drunk driving moment. I got in my Jeep, I took my dog, she was a puppy at the time, and we drove to the beach, and I went and got to a campground, and I wasn't very comfortable. I laid down in the seats, and I got there right at dark, and I just weeping, unsure. I was depressed. I don't know if I was feeling suicidal. I just didn't want to live anymore, though. I was like, what am I supposed to do with my life?
How old were you?
This was 15 years ago. So yeah, I was 30 at the time.
Okay.
I had just got out of the military 2-3 years. So I was right 30, 31. And I said, what does life even have to offer to me? Like, I keep following these paths. Why should I? It's not getting me anywhere soon. You know,
where was it? Were you trying to go, or you didn't know?
I didn't know. I don't know where I wanted to go.
Did you feel? Were you suffering from a lack of purpose? Do you think more than anything?
100%. 100%. No purpose. I'm like, I got all these degrees, but yet I don't want to do the job that I have these degrees for.
So, which a lot of people are doing.
Oh, everyone follows that, and then you end up in a place that is school debt, which even adds another load of pressure and weight on your chest. So not only are you trying to find your purpose, but now you just added more debt that you can't pay for.
Doing something you don't want to do.
Doing something you don't want to do. That's where I was. So here I am at this campground, and I get out of my car after I finally sober up a little bit. I get out of my car and I walk around, and a gentleman sees me with my dog. Cool dog. Hey, awesome. You want some food? And I sat down with him, and we started to eat some food. And I said, thank you. And I ate food with him. And then I went back to my van the next day. And that moment of sacred pause, of just getting away from what I knew, my house, my life, getting into nature, and just being alone for a minute, which was something that I was not really wanting to do. I was very, I've always wanted to be in a relationship. I wanted to be around friends, be social. That's why I was drinking so much. It was social drinking. I was like,
it's hard to be up here, right?
Every night of the week.
It's when you're by yourself and you're quiet, you're with your own thoughts, and that's when you're forced to
so I spent a night doing that, and that's what really led me to what I would call inspired action. So that sacred pause led to inspired action, and that inspired action was for me to start researching tiny houses. I was like, I just need to minimalize. I need to do something else. I didn't end up buying a tiny house at that time, but I ended up buying a small bus. And the way that led me to it, I went to a music festival, and I met a friend of mine, and we listened to an Abraham Hicks talk. It's called The Morning Rampage. It's about having a good day and manifesting your own life and deliberately creating what you want and feeling your way into your day and letting go of the stuff that's the old news. And it was a great talk that changed my life forever. And I listened to that talk almost every day, twice a day for about a year.
Did you really? That's awesome.
As I was driving to my crappy job still, to get through, I listened to this Abraham Hicks Morning Rampage every day. And I would breathe, and I'd let go, and shoot, and then I started to lead me to other people who were talking about breath work. So we're getting to where I started breathing a little bit. And finally, I was at this festival, and I was around a bunch of people who were in their buses, right? And and I was like, I've been researching these tiny houses, but I couldn't figure out how to make it work. It had to do with permitting. Like, where am I going to put it once I buy it? I can buy a tiny house, but where the hell will I put it? And I'm living in Orlando. There's like nowhere for me to put it. So why would I buy something like this? So I ended up buying a bus in a really crazy way, deliberately came to me based upon intuition and me listening to myself, taking those sacred pauses, I was in Clearwater, Florida, on the west coast of Florida, and I decided to look on Craigslist. And I said, I don't know why. And sure enough, there was a bus for sale. Little teeny thing, right price, right? Everything came into place. There's lots of details, but basically it all came into place. Why I was there, why I looked, how I bought it. And then I took it to the next festival that I went to with a futon in the back. It wasn't what I have now. And then from there, I was able to upgrade till finally, I came to a breaking point through all these sacred pauses that I was taking. And that sacred pause gave me an inspired action that said, you need to give all this up. Go to India, serve others. It was like, the love, serve, remember from Ram Dass, like love everyone, serve everyone you meet, and remember God, right? So just remember that you are more than just this experience. Remember that you are something beyond your physical
I
incarnation.
mean, where did that come from though? That's a
It came from being patient with myself.
okay.
Because, so you take enough of these sacred pauses and it leads you into places where you're not thinking anymore, right? Our thoughts are going to lie to us. And when we stay in this normal state of consciousness, we tune into our thoughts and what we think we should do and what happened to us, and we ruminate. But when you give yourself space, you go into the eye of the storm, the eye of the hurricane, where there is peace. And you're no longer thinking there, you're receiving. You're receiving downloads, you're receiving actionable items. This particular actionable item was a heavy one. It said, move to India.
Were you, how were you going out of your way to get that? Were you meditating? Were you doing breath work? Were you just getting out in nature by yourself?
Not at that point, I was not doing breath work yet. So we're getting to where I was breathing, but I was.
What were you doing at the time to go and again that peaceful place? Where
I was listening to Abraham Hicks. I was
just in the car.
I was doing meditations. I was listening to Abraham Hicks while I was driving. And I was doing meditations on, just random people. There was all kinds of different meditators.
Okay.
No one in particular. I was just like, I know that I am giving myself space between my thoughts.
So you started that kind of evolved. This started small and you started to dig deeper and get more out of it.
And being patient with myself. And so it was a big jump to say, leave everything you know and move to India. And that's what I did. And that's where I started meditating. I was there for a couple of years and I started meditating, doing yoga. Breathwork is where I got my first chance of breathwork there. Well, when I came back after several years.
How many years were you there?
2.
Okay.
2. So
what part of India?
Rishikesh, India, for the most part. And I was in Varanasi for a little while. And then I did go over to Chennai for a little bit. But most of the time was Rishikesh and then up into the Himalayas, to different ashrams that are up there. Did a lot of climbing because I'm a climber. I love going up into the big mountains and doing that work. But wonderful time, a lot of recreation, but it was mostly about serving others. That's what I was there to do, serve others. And being in the ashram taught me the basis of breath work. But to really dig deeper into it, I had to come home and apply it to real life. So it's really easy to be a meditator. And when you live in an ashram, it's really easy to have daily breath work when your job that day is to feed others and to be present for self. It's super easy. I did a couple of Vipassanas where my whole job was, 15 hours of meditation, 10 days of silent meditation. I did 2 of those and they're wonderful, but it's not easy. But it's easier to be in a beautiful place in an ashram, in a monastery somewhere, and be told, hey, find space between your thoughts. Great.
You're not working a job, phones, distractions.
But when you come back,
that's when real life kicks back in.
Yep, and that's where I needed to find something. And that's where I needed to do anything, whatever that is. And so I'd already been doing some breath work and meditation, and I obviously knew that I wanted to keep that up. And I started to dig deeper into some of the philosophies of Dr. Joe Dispenza and some other really well-known psychedelic integrated coaches, Stanislav Grof, and really the teachings of Ram Dass. Ram Dass is really who grounded me and brought me back. So by having some of these teachers saying there's this other realm of consciousness, there's this other place you can go to get away from your thoughts, and I knew that I can get into altered states of consciousness through breath work.
Okay.
And in doing so, that took me to who I really am, not who I am. This personality that you see, Ram Dass calls this channel 1. Right? This is who you're a man, and that's who you are, and you work this job, and then that's channel 1. Well, we need
exterior.
And then channel 2 we can get into like things that we've experienced and what our life is. That very few of us go past that. We live our lives on these channels that are very topical. When we get it beyond that, we start to say, well, channel 4, we're all souls. Right.
And most of us aren't living that channel 1 to our full. Like most of us are living for other people and impressing other people, worry about other people's opinions.
That's really channel 1 too, though. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. That channel 1 is we're not even doing it for ourselves most of the time.
No. Yeah, that's ego. That's attachments to things.
Yeah,
that's to happen.
Most of us don't have channel 1 figured out.
Right. And so when you get to channel 4, where we're just souls, you and I, souls sitting in a room, gender doesn't matter, jobs doesn't matter, any of that. What matters is we're souls, and souls care about each other. And we support each other, and souls love each other. And if you can go beyond that channel 5, where none of it really matters anyway.
Okay.
Because there's such this odd comparison that our worth is based on our works. Our worth is based on our works, what we've accomplished, what we can show when we leave. But what if your grading criteria wasn't based on your works? It was based on you completing your dharma or your duty. Some people would say when a young child dies at 2, oh, what a shame. They died so early. But what if that was their dharma, to come into this life, affect people until 2, and then they could move on to their next existence? And so I started to question things like this. Question, what is dharma? What is our duty in this life?
What does dharma mean exactly?
Duty.
Okay.
It is so the Bhagavad Gita talks a lot about this. So if you read the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is talking to Arjuna, and Arjuna is sitting in the battlefield, and he says, he's looking across this battlefield, he's this great warrior, and he says, I see my teachers, and I see my cousins and my uncles, and I'm supposed to fight against them. He's like, and Krishna, who's this charioteer, he doesn't know that he's the avatar of God at that point, but he says he's charioteer, and he says to him, in simplified words, do your duty. It doesn't matter if you choose to fight or not. He didn't want to fight because he's like, I can't kill my teachers. And he goes, what is supposed to be is already done. So whether you do it or not, it's going to get done. This is part of this grand scheme of life. Do your duty. Your duty in this life is this. And so for me, I needed to find out what my dharma was, right? Like, what is my dharma?
How do you do that?
Yeah. And so, but he also started talking, we have to involve our karmic path in this too. And a lot of people think that karma is good or bad, right? Not true. Okay, karma is not good or bad. Karma is action or inaction. And either one of those things has a consequence.
That's interesting.
Action has consequence, inaction has consequence. So you have to decide via your karmic path, are you going to follow your dharma? Now, most of us will be like, I don't know what my purpose in life is. Interesting, right? So some of us will say our dharma is, I'm a teacher, I have this invention, I'm a wood job, that's my dharma. For me, I learned that my dharma was to serve others. Okay. And you have to reach beyond your thinking mind to learn that. You can't go, what's my dharma? Oh, let me think really hard about it. You have to say, I'm ready to receive, I'm ready to go into alignment to receive my dharma and know what I am here for. And we have to ask those questions, like, what is my life purpose? Well, I found out that my life purpose was really to be of service, and I didn't know what that meant. So when I came back from India, I started to just teach yoga. I did not go back into clinic. I didn't go into a clinic. I didn't go back into a hospital. I taught yoga. Now you can imagine how just maybe disappointed my family was.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That what
massive.
The opinion people are going to have of
massive.
You, like what?
Massive. And I said, well, I'm just here to serve. I don't know. I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know yet. I can still say that I'm unsure. Even today, I will tell you, I know what my dharma is, but I don't know where it's going to lead me. I didn't know it was going to lead me in a chair here. I don't know. You know, I say yes to what feels good. I say no to where I need boundaries. And I allow things to flow to me. If they feel easy, then yes. If they feel difficult, that is disalignment with my path. I realize that if there's tension in my mind, we're going back to this, that is stress. And if there's tension somewhere, that is indicating to me that I'm going the wrong direction.
Interesting.
So that space, that sacred pause, helps you identify where that tension is showing up. If a tension is showing up in your relationship, that relationship maybe is expired.
Okay.
If that relationship is in your job, maybe it's expired. All things are temporary. So my dharma led me to beginning to teach more breath work. Breath work led me to learning, I have a whole nother hours and hours of stories of getting into the cold we can chat about and where I learned that in India, but this led me to going to Wim Hof method classes. And that led me to becoming an instructor, which led me to learning about other instructors, which led me to creating my own breathwork modalities. And this is because it all felt good.
It's kind of like if you see blockages, you know it's the wrong direction.
Yes, and it doesn't mean we can't go down the wrong way, but our dharma, our duty, is leading us down our karmic path. And regardless of what we do, let me back up a little bit. My vision board has this little circles and lines and all this stuff, right? And it is my path. It has pauses on it. It has twists. It has turns. It has stops. It has breakages, but it's still my path.
Okay.
And I'm still on my path regardless. I did that on my vision board this year even, indicating that it's okay when I feel a little bit off my path because I'm still on it. That feeling of being off it is reminding me, come off. It's kind of like, when you drive down the road and you're like, and you hit the little rumble strips, zoom, 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 zoom. You're still on the road.
Yeah. It's just kind of correcting
you. Get to choose if you want to go into ease, come back to the left, or if you want to go really hard, go ahead and go to right and you're off into the weeds, right?
So I have a question. I have a coach and he's constantly like, what is like your Dharma? What is your purpose? Yeah. But then he questions why. So why for you? Like you're talking about serving others. Why is that important to you?
Well, I just did my own podcast the other day, and it was about when in doubt, serve others.
Okay.
When in doubt, serve others, because that was like the 5th step on that particular podcast. But because when you don't know, you're going to go into thinking. So when in doubt, serve others. And for me, my mind was always in this other place. So I was like, when in doubt, serve others. When in doubt, and then I realized that was my life purpose. It showed up. It showed up as saying, keep serving. So what I ended up doing, my why was I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed doing something. And my why, so it's like when you manifest something, you get clear on your why. You get clear on your what first. What is it? I want to be a breathwork instructor, right? Yeah. Why? I want to serve others. I really enjoy it. Wow. Let go of the how and the when. Okay, you got to let go of the how and the when, and let that become a receiving mode that's on your path. So for me, I knew that I wanted to teach. I knew that I wanted to serve others, and so that's what I started to do. Okay. Well, I ran into my friend Jesse, and I did a couple Wim Hof classes together. And he decided he wanted to create a whole nother style of breath work called the language of breath. And said, hey, I'd like you to be a co-founder with me. Give me your insights. You're really good at what you do. Let's put this together. Let's get a book going. Let's get a website. Let's get instructors. Let's do this thing. And so we created the Language of Breath Collective. Now, really, it's his brainchild because he came up with the name and he wrote the course, but I helped him with pieces of it. If you go to the course on languageofbreathcollective.com, you'll see videos of me and him and retreats that we're doing together and stuff we're doing. So we decided to create this language of breath, which is now massive. Massive meaning like we're really getting a lot of momentum on it. And as I'm speaking at TED Talks this year about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love TED Talks. The fact you're speaking, one of my goals is to speak on a TED Talk eventually.
Well, it was in my vision board 2 years ago.
Was it? Oh, wow, that's quick.
So this is something that I think the audience and you should know is like if it's something you want, get clear on your what, get clear on your why, and let go of the how and the when. Know that the universe hears you. So for me, all the stuff on my vision boards, everything on my focus wheels, I do them almost daily. I do a lot of manifesting techniques. I even wrote a course called the How to Breathe to Manifest Miracles. Okay. And so you incorporate breath work with different techniques. And I did this on Insight Timer app. I think I'm going to recreate this course and get it in a different platform also. But I may do it back with them. They've been really good to me, and I may do it there. But we're also have another app coming out called the Breath Source app, and I'll probably do some other stuff there with coaching and whatnot. But it was like the language of breath sort of catapulted me getting away from what I was doing with just Wim Hof method, which is one technique of breath work meets ice meets mindset, which is wonderful, and I'd use it often daily, but I also know that is not necessarily for everyone. They may need other things. So I started going down this path of language of breath, and that led me to teaching a lot of retreats and doing things. And so I was teaching a ton of retreats all over the country. I was doing stuff for veterans. We opened our own nonprofit for veterans called Visionary Veterans. And doing breath work there because I'm seeing that all these different styles of breath work are helping people's mental health. They're helping them feel focused, connected, releasing maybe some traumas, and understanding that they're more than their experience. In doing so, that led me to one particular retreat, which has changed my life forever now. Again, this is inspired action. Let's take the sacred pause. Let's allow it to flow to us by getting clear on our what and our why, letting all that other stuff go and letting it flow. So I got invited to teach at a retreat, which was by Satori Health and Wellness, which is a ketamine clinic in southern Utah. Okay. They asked me to teach at a retreat for wellness retreat, basically for a hospital who asked for some help. They wanted some help for their nurses and doctors and stuff.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, no big deal. Got you. I'll teach you. I'll do what I do. And after that retreat, the owner said, I have something for you. I think I could use your help on something. Can you tell me how to do this? So basically they were doing infusion, IV, ketamine. And
what is ketamine exactly?
Ketamine is it's an anesthetic developed in about 1970 by the military as a replacement for PCP, as an anesthetic. And it works on the glutamate system, but basically it's a disassociative, so you can use it for surgery and all kinds of things. Just happens to be at the right dosages, a psychedelic that talks on the MDMA receptors of the glutamate system. Okay. So it stays off the serotonin system and it's on the glutamate system. And relatively safe, relatively addiction-free, relatively no nausea if you do it right, and allows disassociative for people to be able to process for about an hour anxiety, stress, depression, and it's especially good with suicide ideation. It's a disruptor. It disrupts thought patterns.
Gotcha.
So my friend's Dr. Allen now, he said, hey, can you make this thing scalable? Meaning more people get it.
Yeah.
Because IVs is not very scalable. If you have a whole series of doctors and nurses in a room and a bunch of IV pumps.
Yeah.
Not scalable. He said, and can you make it cheaper? Because right now, I mean, in California, you pay upwards of $1,500 for a ketamine session. In Nevada, it's maybe $1,000. In Utah, it's right around underneath $1,000. So it's not a poor man's treatment, right? So you have to have money to do this, and many times insurance is not going to pay for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people are not being able to get this treatment, and he said, I want to make it scalable, and I want to make it affordable, but here's the problem. Is when we take it in the affordable option, which are called troches, they're little lozenges.
Okay.
They're not very bioavailable, meaning you put a couple hundred milligrams into you.
Your body's breaking it down.
Your body breaks it down through the liver and through the kidney, and you get very little, so you give somebody a whole bunch of it. And you're ending up in this heavy dissociative state where they're just basically falling asleep.
Okay.
So when you do an IV, you can give them a drip and you give them a little bit of time or whatever. Mm-hmm. He says, can you figure that out? And I said, well, what I know about breath work is that if I'm going into a hypoxic breath work, which is a sympathetic dominant state, that I know that certain things happen within the autonomic nervous system. Wim Hof method taught me that, and language of breath taught me this. I know this. I know that I can inhibit digestion by getting people into a hypoxic state that includes a fight or flight response. Okay. I know that. So I said, let me take that. But what I don't want people doing is going into a psychedelic trip in a fight or flight mode. So I have to do something else at the end of that to bring them back, to say, here we are with intention, and we're going to amp this up with intention. You know, you've done breath work with me, you get it. So we're like, what's our intention here? What are we doing? All right, let's amp it up. This is what we're bringing into our life. Let's amp it up because we're excited about it. I'm excited for change. And so that adrenaline and cortisol, you're like, you kind of welcome it a little bit. You're like, I want change, yeah. And then let's tune it down. Okay. So we tune it down before the ketamine really hits. I mean, right about that time when it does hit, about 10, 15 minutes. So what we've just done is we've inhibited digestion, making it a sublingual application. So you have your ketamine underneath your tongue or in your cheeks, and you're getting what we believe anecdotally, we haven't done all the case studies yet, but about 90% bioavailability. So we've amped it up about 70%.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're prepping your body to absorb it better.
You're preparing it so you can absorb it better or use it better along the glutamate system rather than into the stomach.
That's interesting. That kind of makes me wonder, can that be done on other things?
Oh, I've done it on several, yes.
What other things have you done that with? I mean, that seems to be open a lot of doors.
Right now we're in the last stages of the work with the MAPS program on MDMA. So using MDMA in the same way. It's a little bit different with MDMA. Definitely, I've used different breath work in conjunction with psilocybin. It's also different because...
What's psilocybin?
Magic mushrooms.
Okay, I've never heard it called that. Okay.
Psilocybin is the active ingredient in mushrooms, and the body breaks it down to psilocin, and psilocin travels along the serotonin system.
Okay.
And that's where you get that psychedelic.
Gotcha.
And that is a very associative chemical, whereas ketamine is a very disassociative.
Okay.
So you're very much in the body with mushrooms, you're very out of the body with ketamine.
Gotcha.
And so they're totally different. We can call them both psychedelics, but they're quite a bit different.
Okay.
MDMA does not have the psychoactive component as some of these other ones do. It's more of a different feeling. They call it, I forget the actual term, but basically it's a heart sensing feeling.
Gotcha.
So
done it with DMT, things like that as well, or is that
DMT? Yes. DMT is used in that way. DMT is a little different. If you were to take DMT, it's you don't really have time to do breath work, honestly. As you take a hit of DMT, you're feeling it right away.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on how you're ingesting it. So with ayahuasca and using that, it's a little bit different because you do have time for the metabolism to break it down. But if you're smoking it, you're getting that DMT right away.
Straight away. Gotcha. That's really interesting.
So so we work with a lot of them. I mean, I primarily work with what's legal, obviously.
Yeah.
Because we do run a clinic. However, there are some religious loopholes that we use to work with other chemicals in a ceremonial and I'll call it clinical setting because it is therapy, not necessarily in a clinic, but we're doing them in a therapeutic setting to where there is a therapeutic benefit. It's not, I'm not giving, let's do breath work and go party on some, some mushrooms. No. It's all very much ceremony.
And intentional, right?
Very intentional. And all of it includes integrative work. So the next day or within a week, I host monthly online Zoom integration calls with anyone who's experienced any kind of psychedelic and needs to learn, okay, now I'm on this side of the fence. I realize there's other realms of consciousness. How do I apply that to my life? And so the ways that I apply that to life, well, I usually start with breath work. Let's do this daily and get into that altered state of consciousness, or at least that place where you're finding the pause in the storm, calm in the storm. There's no pause. It's really just a calm in the storm, where you can be present with it. And I find in the ice bath, I'm quite present. And I find
that's the best thing about the ice bath.
Yeah,
you are more present than any.
You never think about your bills. You don't think about your relationship.
Anything besides breathing.
You're thinking about breathing.
Full stop. That's what I love about it.
When you're thinking about breathing, you're taking yourself away from the prefrontal cortex of thinking, and you're moving it into the emotional center of who you are, your limbic mind. I believe that our heart carries knowledge, that our heart knows. It's sort of this receptor, if you will, about how we're feeling and and it's almost guiding us to things that feel good, right? I'm feeling in love, right? Oh, that feels good. I'm feeling excited, and your heart feels it, right?
Yeah.
I'm feeling anxious, your heart feels it, right? And then we tend to have that bottom up signal to the mind that says, now what should I do with that? Well, the problem is with our mind is it wants to keep you safe.
Yeah.
It doesn't want you to adventure too far outside of the lines, right? So the mind says, remember what last time you fell in love?
You got hurt.
Don't do that. And so we get in the way of our own selves. Breath work creates that sacred pause for you.
Gotcha.
And I think that's kind of the theme today, right? So creating that sacred pause is just a matter of saying, here we are. So you don't need to do breath work 30 minutes a day to have a sacred pause. It takes 2 minutes to influence the autonomic nervous system. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
To change from sympathetic dominant to rest and digest. It takes 2 minutes of doing the right breath work, targeted with intention. So when someone comes to me in my clinic and says, I'm diagnosed with treatment-resistant depression and I'm manic and these are the things that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
How do I not be those things anymore without drugs? And I'm like, well, let's create some new patterns. Okay, these patterns are done and they're called the default mode or they're sometimes called your neuroplastic network, whatever but we have this plasticity that can change. So I take them into these ketamine trips using breath work, programming what is wanted rather than the opposite of what is wanted.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you recommend getting to breath work by itself first and for a certain amount of time before you start to do the ketamine?
Yeah, they're totally different. But I mean, if you're feeling suicide ideation, don't wait.
Okay, so you're getting straight into it.
Yeah,
if
don't
need
wait.
Be. Okay.
Breath work, I think, is a tool. The reason why I think of breath work as the therapist that you take with you everywhere.
Okay.
So if you need a therapist, come see a therapist. Don't get out of the shame and be very vulnerable and be like, I need a therapist.
Yeah.
Got you, man. Like, I get you. That's where I was at.
Yeah.
Where I needed a therapist, and therapist for me was nature. At that moment, and it was being out in nature. That was my therapist. It was that sacred pause. And sometimes we don't know how to get out of our own heads. So going to see a therapist will help with that.
Okay.
Help you reprogram some of these thoughts, make them useful. If you have a passion for something, I can help you.
Yeah.
Channel that passion. If your passion is whatever, X, and you don't know how to get to X, let's figure that out. Baby steps. So like me getting into my van life now, I didn't start there. I started with this crappy bus.
Sorry.
Right? I started with a crappy bus and it worked just fine.
Yeah.
And then we move further and we move further. And then here we are today where we're manifesting this beautiful life. So start with breathing. But you have to go to people that you can trust. And I told you this when we did the class the other day.
Yeah.
Is there's a lot of really credible instructors out there. And how do you differentiate them from the really crappy ones? And those who are stealing techniques from somebody, I hate to use the word stealing, because breathwork doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs, we all have the right to it. But if you can screw up breathwork.
Yeah.
And I think that the problem resides in the aftercare. If you take someone through an altered state, you help them reprogram, and they're coming out on the other side, realizing that, hey, there's some possibilities there, but they have no integration into how do I apply that to my life now, you kind of made it worse for them. Now they're going, I really like being over there. How do I get back over there? Do I just stay? Do I just breathe my whole day away?
That's interesting.
And then okay, now I can do it with psychedelics. Now what? You really need somebody to guide and direct you.
Gotcha.
And to help you with that. So starting with breathwork, and I would say go into, we created this app, some friends of mine, we're on the app as Language of Breath. It's called The Breath Source.
The Breath Source.
Free download. You download it.
Comes out when?
It's out really now.
Oh, it's out. Okay.
It's out on the Apple Store, and it'll be out on next Friday on the Play Store.
Okay.
We're launching it, doing a bunch of really beautiful things with it.
You got a lot of guided stuff on there, correct?
I'm on there, but it's not just, I'm leading. I want people to know that there are resources that are not some jokers, I hate to say it, but jokers on YouTube, right? Like they're just taking even Wim Hof's voice, putting over a nice sound.
I've heard them, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, what if I had a problem? What if I had a seizure during, and then who would I go to help me with that? What if I had a breakthrough experience and I saw my future and I knew and I released trauma? What do I do with that now? And you don't have anybody there to help you. So Breath Source is a really great way. There's a lot of free content on there. I'm on Insight Timer also, which is a free app. Yep. And people can find me there. Pretty good credibility with Insight Timer and the Breath Source. YouTube is a great place for content. I mean, I have a friend, Dan Vinay is on there. He's also on the Breath Source. Yep. So he's on YouTube. Great. Wonderful. Wim Hof. Great. My friend Jesse Coomer, he's also on YouTube, and he's also on the Breath Source. He's also my partner in Language of Breath. So there are good people, but you need to go in with this sort of like slide eye and go, okay, what is your credibility in this? Yeah. And there's no regulatory body in breathwork.
It's the same for anything with social media these days. Yeah. Like everyone's an influencer on TikTok, right?
Right. Yeah. There's not a
podcast. What's the right podcast? Who's putting out the right value? That's you really gotta critically think and do your own research.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would encourage people to say, okay, well, if I can find you only on YouTube, I mean, that's great, but like, where are you teaching and what are your reviews and what's your website look like? And so, that's where I lead people. I'm like, you make your own decision. Go to languageofbreathcollective.com and make your decision. Yeah. If you like what we're doing there, cool. I'll give you, there's my course right there. I'll even give you a discount code if you want to try it. Yeah. And we'll give you, we're happy to give refunds if you don't like the dang thing, and then come to retreats. Really take your time. So like the first time I went to Poland, to be Wim Hof Method certified, I had already done 3 different fundamentals classes. Okay. With different instructors. I wanted to decide that was for me. And so I had done a bunch of different ones and I was like, oh, I do want to do this. I was doing my own daily practice, doing my own breath work. I was using the app, kind of cool. the old app version of it where it was just recorded. You didn't have to touch anything. It was kind of nice. And then that's when I decided to go get certified for that. Well, since then, I've decided that breathwork is more than just one technique. I realize that it can serve so many people in so many different ways, and it's the therapist that you take with you. So, for instance, when sacred pauses don't have to happen first thing in the morning when you're getting ready to start the day. That's the best time to do breath work, don't get me wrong. But before I eat, I want to be in a parasympathetic dominance for my digestion. So how do we do that? We influence it through breath.
Yep.
So I do something where we do yums. Instead of saying om, we say yum.
Yum.
You know, when you take a deep breath in through your nose, and then it's yum all the way out, right? You do that 3 or 4 times. And you're creating nitric oxide for the hum part of that, and you're slowing down the exhale. It's twice as long as the inhale. That's parasympathetic dominance. You can digest better. How many of us run around town and they're crazy jobs and you have a lunch break? That's an hour, 30 minutes, whatever you get. You grab something from the fast food place, you shove it in, you get back to work, and it never really digests. You have indigestion, right? We have all these GI issues because we're not really taking time with our food. And if you were just to take 4 good breaths that lasted, so we'll do the math here. If you do 4 good yums, right? And they last a 5 count in and a 10 count out. Guess what you just did?
Yeah, you.
That's 15 seconds per breath.
Yeah.
Right? And you just lengthened that so that you took a minute to just a little bit longer than that. Maybe you take 2 minutes where you sit there with your food. 2 minutes to get into parasympathetic dominance so you can digest. Another time, you wake up in the middle of the night. I use a breath we call the cadence of bliss, which is 4 counts in, 7 counts hold, 8 count out. And you do that for about 2 minutes and you go right back to sleep. It just calms everything down. A lot of people have a hard time staying asleep. You can get to bed, but you know, I use some other things. I've been using some functional mushrooms from an affiliate of mine that I really like, that really helped me. It's valerian root and CBG and what else is in that thing? But some really deliciousness. A lot of functional, ashwagandha and reishi and some cordyceps and stuff. So really amazing stuff to help with cellular repair and also just finding ease. I think we have so much stimuli. You know, you're here in the city, you have stimuli, you have cars, you have people, you have things happening, you have events.
Oh, well, it's on your phone, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, you have so much stimuli that wants to keep you engaged when all we really want to do is disengage.
Disconnect, yeah.
And when you disconnect, it's such this beautiful thing, and this is where I found my sacred pause, was disconnecting for just a minute. Get away from the city. I was in Orlando, get away. Take a minute, take a sacred pause. You know, before I came here to see you, I was out in Death Valley, this beautiful place, this oasis in the desert that I need. I'm driving around, you know, I got to get back to Utah, you know, I'm like, I could be like, I got to do it and most people live their lives like that based on to-do lists and agendas and expectations of others. And so when we live our lives based on that, we tend to forget about ourselves and our own. We don't always forget about our physical health. I got to get to the gym. It's part of our like to-do list. Right?
Yeah.
But we forget about.
We
forget about our heart and our head. We believe our head because it's telling us this top-down signal what we should do, but we forget about our heart that is saying, I desire connection. I desire to be in balance with nature. I desire this. And we say, well, we don't have time for that. I don't have the money for that. Well, I was talking to my partner about this. About what us going to Death Valley, what that costs us. We wanted to say, like, what does that cost us to go out there? To experience, and which is
cost being 2 different things, though, right? Money cost or the cost of your health, and
right. Yeah, we can compare it like that, but financially. Where people will say, I can't do that. Well, guess what? It cost me a tank of gas. Yeah, I stopped at the date farm and we had shakes at the date farm. But that's really all it cost me. We spend time just going, you can find nature anywhere. Even here in this very large city that you live in, you have a plethora of nature that is within, I would say within 45 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful, where you feel completely lost.
Yeah.
Now, I went to one of the parks here in town, beautiful park, that made me feel pretty disconnected from the city also.
Yeah.
And I think when we start to refine what our priorities are, we begin to live longer, we begin to feel better, and we begin to have better relationships with others.
Yeah.
There's something called blue zones, where people live longer. I think...
Breath talks about it.
Yeah.
The book Breath in Japan, right?
Yeah. He does. James Nestor talks about that. Yeah. Like places like Okinawa. And there's a couple other places on the planet.
Little pockets around the planet.
And I don't know if they know exactly why necessarily, but my true belief is that people are more connected to the environment that they live.
And the community, the belonging, the looking after one another.
Right. I think that's part of it. And what we've run into, the more people that we bring together into cities, the less we care about each other. I would guess that many people don't even know a lot of their neighbors. We just tend to not. I don't know. I don't want to bug them. I don't want them to know me.
That's where I struggle in this city compared to Australia. It's complete opposite.
Yeah. I think getting to know your neighbors is a good first step in vulnerability. Just saying, hey, I know this is a little uncomfortable, but I want you to know that I'm next door, and that if you need anything, I'm here. And you may create a friendship, but at least you know what your neighbor looks like.
Yeah.
And for me, I live in nature quite a bit. I would say that I'm not a socially anxious person, but I prefer time in smaller groups because I facilitate big groups all the time. I thrive. I thrive in big groups, but when I can, I go into smaller groups. And for me, those are the most intimate times for me to breathe. So today, here in this beautiful oasis, this little teeny river going down the road, you wouldn't even know that it's there. Most of this town is like hot springs and all kinds of stuff. And we found a moment to breathe together and to meditate and to connect to the land, which then in turn connected us to us. That's what breathwork does, is it says, hey, you're more than this body. Because we're not breathing into our lungs. Yes, we are physically. But is that why we do it? No, we don't breathe because we want to breathe into our lungs. We want to breathe so that we can tap into and regulate our nervous system. That's the whole reason we do breath work. Yes, there are some functions of alkalinity, and there's all kinds of things that happen biomechanically, but really nervous system regulation is why I do breath work. I do it because I want to not react. I want to be a responder. I want to be an observer. That's the name of my podcast, Life as an Observer. Like, I want to be an observer of life, not a reactor. I like that. I want to be a better partner to my partner in my partnership. I want to be one that's not reactionary, that realizes that we're just two souls trying to figure it out. We're both on our healing path. I want to be a better boss to my employees, to say, I understand that things happen, rather than I have deadlines and things. I want to be a better employee with my partnerships and when I go to retreats, to say, I get it, you're learning too. We have to create sacred pauses in our life so that we can understand others better.
I like that. Talk to me, so you're an expert on the cold. I know you know a lot. Can we go a little bit shallow to start off with on, keep going a lot of questions, why do you do the cold, why do you recommend do the cold, how does it incorporate in your breathing? Just on the base level to start off with.
I can summarize that in one sentence.
Okay.
All transformation happens in discomfort.
Ooh, I like that.
All. We're never super comfortable to make transformations in our life.
I like that a lot.
If we were to make transformation in our life in the places of super comfort, it would just really never happen. We live in air-conditioned spaces. We have beautiful clothing. We have great car. We have all these things that disconnect us from discomfort. And so we never make change because we, maybe on an unconscious level, fear change, but also we fear discomfort. So most people, when they come to get into, say, the ice baths, I would, but I don't like that. I don't like the cold.
It's like fasting. I fast. People, I could never fast. That's
it's uncomfortable.
Starving. Yeah, anything that's uncomfortable, people like shun away from it.
So that's really...
You and I lean into it and embrace it.
Yeah, you lean into it. You embrace it. When I lived in India, we ate dal, lentils and rice, and chapati, a little rice, a little bread that was pretty much what you ate every day. Maybe some fresh veggies, you know, maybe you might have that, but for the most part, that's all you ate. And people would say, oh, that's horrible. That's all you get to eat is rice and beans. Yeah, but what if that's all you have?
Or you can look at it the other way. Hey, I have rice and beans.
I have rice and beans.
Opposed to nothing.
Yeah. For me personally, I think that cold exposure is not just ice baths. For me, that's a great way to do it, but that's not always available. Okay? It's not always available.
No, it's not.
And so for me, I like to do snow walks. You know, I live in the mountains, so I can put my feet into the snow and just walk, which is quite difficult. I would say creates a bigger challenge than even an ice bath does most of the time. And
it's kind of whatever you do. If you walk in the snow all the time bare feet, you get more comfortable doing that. Yeah. And then the ice bath is going to be harder.
Yeah.
So it's what you're kind of getting at is doing things that make you uncomfortable for growth.
You have to. And
what's some examples that you do and other things you would recommend people do?
Well,
like walking
for cold?
Just uncomfortable in general.
Okay, because uncomfortable is different than cold, because I do a lot of things that are also uncomfortable.
Give me.
I mean, speaking in public can be very uncomfortable.
Being on camera is another one. I talk about that a lot.
It can be. You know, and that's something that I have no fear of now. I've taken many courses in public speaking, and I feel totally comfortable speaking.
Plus, just practicing and jumping with 2 feet and failing forwards.
But I would recommend, yes, cold exposure is a great way to feel the fear, to feel adrenaline without, you know, a lion chasing you. It's a really safe way to experience what we call a hormetic stress. Okay, so hormetic stress, I do this because it's a hormesis or a I
was going to say that ties into hormesis, right?
Yes.
David Sinclair talks about it all the time.
Yes. Yeah. So hormesis, you want to have this little bell curve of stress that says this is acute and it goes away. Your body and mind begin to realize this is temporary. This is temporary. I can do this. I can get it, you know. And anything that makes you uncomfortable. So, for instance, what is it that you want in your life? We put them on vision boards, right? And we say things like, for me, like speaking in TED Talks was like I don't know anybody. Why would you want to listen to me? I don't, you know, I'm just a guy from Utah, you know.
That's self-doubt.
A lot of self-doubt. But for me, it was like, well, that's uncomfortable. Awesome. Let's figure that out. Let's figure out a way. So you invest in the relationship. So what's another thing? Okay, well, how about being on BLM land, you know, Bureau of Land, like in the middle of nowhere, Bureau of Land Management land, in a van, living. Figure that out. Go there for a week and see how that feels. It feels uncomfortable, but you learn a lot from that. How to manage your time, because you'd be like, oh, all I have is time now. What do I do with it? Do I go crazy? Oh, or do you make it something productive? I took my van when I first bought it, and I went out and I just worked on it in the desert. I have a little generator, and you do what you got to do, and you make it happen, and it was wonderful. It was a great experience with myself. Most of us fear time alone, so moving into meditation could be that uncomfortable place. And most people will say, I don't want to do it because I don't think I'm doing it right. Probably. But are you even just trying?
Yeah, I was going to say, by just starting though is...
Just start.
Yeah.
Have an instructor, have a teacher that says, this is the technique. Start slow, work your way up. Go to a yoga studio. Say, hey, I'm looking for meditation. Someone can help you with that. The other areas that can be uncomfortable are traveling alone for some people.
That's something I want to do a lot more.
Get on a plane, go somewhere. How about get on a plane and not know where you're going to go or stay? I will tell you, I did this. I've done this so many times now, but like I went to Brazil and I said, I'm just going to go because I want to.
By yourself?
Yeah.
Can you speak Portuguese?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So that was the one thing, but
I mean, still.
Yes. So go to Brazil. Where are you going to stay? I don't know. I'm going to go to Sao Paulo and I'm going to figure it out. And I ended up on a beach in Ubatuba. It's called Praia do Sono, a sleep beach or dream beach.
Yeah.
I ended up there surfing, smoking a bunch of weed with a bunch of surfers, sleeping on the beach for a couple of weeks. It was great. It was wonderful. But there's fear. There's doubt. Yeah. Can I do this? The first time I went to Poland, I was in Prague for a little while. I'm on my own. I don't speak Czech. I don't know anything about it. You know, I'm like, I don't know anything about this. I was in Prague. I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to go see some cool things that are old and fun and learn about, you know, some history. And you learn a lot about your tolerance to that fear. Like, I guess there's a tolerance. Saying, I can handle only so much before I need to take a break. So for me, it was, okay, I'm going to get an Airbnb and I could stay in here all day, or I can challenge myself. What's the challenge? Go out and get a slice of pizza.
Yeah, be social. Go to
the grocery store.
Yeah.
Holy crap. So you can go and do that and be like, I'm traveling and I'm going to order room service. No. Get out and go, I'm going to challenge this. I don't speak Czech. I don't speak Polish when I was in Poland.
And that's like me yesterday just going to your class by myself. Yeah. That is just something that pushes you out of your comfort zone where it forces you to grow.
Right.
Living in a different country with no family or support here, that is one of the best things I ever did.
Yeah.
As far as personal growth. And I tell people that all the time. So you're talking about all these different examples.
I never did it when I was in the Navy. I never went out by myself. I was always with someone else. So
you probably had friends and support.
Yeah, always.
Which can be also a curse in a way.
I should have gone by myself. I mean, I was in Australia a couple of times, and I remember we were been deployed, and I was like, I wish I would have just like gone on my own. Places like I was in Hobart, Tasmania, and I was like, I had so many opportunities to do things, but I was always like, oh, let's go to the bar, as all of us sailors go, and so we would go to the bar, and I didn't really. There's so many ports that I went to that I can't tell you anything about the city other than the bar that we went to.
Yeah.
And that is, I hate to say I have regrets in my life, but that's one.
That's interesting.
That I went to a lot of places that I can tell you nothing about.
See, I feel myself leaning into traveling by myself. For that, and not to stay in a 5-star hotel.
Yeah.
But to learn about the area, to meet new people, to be forced to go out of the house and interact.
So what I encourage people to do. So we're taking this being uncomfortable, taking your breath work, gaining this. I have to go back into what Patanjali is who wrote the Yoga Sutras. Okay, it's the Bible of the yoga, basically. Okay. And he said something. He said, "Yogas chitas vritti naranha," which is in Sanskrit. It means yoga is the calming of the whirlwind of the mind. Now, we have to break this down and say, yoga. What is yoga? It's not posture. Yoga is union. It's yoking. It's yoking the mind, body, soul. Bring it together. Whirlwind, mind. He calls it the chitta, the storehouse of the thing. So the chitta, yoga's chitta, vritti, the whirlwind. Okay, take this whirlwind and sit in the middle of it. It's never going to go away. You're going to have that whirlwind forever. Most of us sit on the sidelines and go, "That's dangerous. Ooh, that's dangerous." But when you go in the middle of a hurricane, it's very calm. It's very mellow. The eye of the storm is very chill. You can go surfing. You can enjoy it. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous place. And when we stay in the hurricane's arms, yeah, you're going to get taken away. You're going to get blown away. Your house is going to get destroyed. But when you go into the calm of that storm through meditation and breath work, you not only get empowered, you learn about your life, you learn about others, you connect socially to others, you love more, you're more passionate. You can do a lot. So we take all these things and say, here's traveling, right? Traveling is a great thing to do, but maybe that's not for everyone. Maybe it's just simply learning up a new hobby. And
guitar right behind me. That's exactly what I'm doing.
Pick up a hobby. I learned to play the handpan because I wanted to learn to play an instrument.
That's really cool, by the way.
Yeah. I just want to learn something, and so I learned it, and then there it was. I learned the flutes the same way. Just
enjoying that process, right?
Right. So
instilling that habit.
I may not be for everyone to learn an instrument. What we really need to say is, let's find that sacred pause. And the only ways that I know to get there: breathwork, meditation. Those are the 2 ways that I know. Sorry, 3. Get into nature. You can do that through nature also. And somebody's probably going to say, well, I do this too. Okay, yoga, maybe, but you're really breathwork with that. Okay, let's just be real. Postures are not going to be calming. The breath that goes with the posture is. The meditation, the nature. So if you can take these 3 elements and create a sacred pause for your life, once a day, when needed, SOS, turn it on, right? You've just then said, I am making way for the life that's waiting for me rather than living the one that I'm in. So if you're just living your life, scraping to get by, trying to figure it out, you're living in a very small bubble of what your life is and what you're capable of. But when you say, I'm going to get out of my own way and make way for the life that's waiting for me, it tends to flow to you really quickly. And so what I was kind of leaning towards is the breath work led me to this, it led me to this, it led me to this, and it's leading me to the next, and to the next. This is my path. This is me, sacred pauses along the way on this loop-de-loop path that's saying, I just want to be of service. I don't know where that's going to take me. Sometimes it's going to feel good. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's going to be scary. Sometimes it's going to make sense. Sometimes it's not. But when it feels good, follow it. When it doesn't, stop.
Okay.
And I have a lot of other practices that I use, mantras I use different journaling techniques. And you pick up different things that work for you.
That's what this podcast has done. The amount of new habits and things I've instilled from sitting there and learning from people like yourself is game changer.
Yeah.
All right. So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So the mental health, I'm beginning to realize like serving, helping others is something that's resonating with me a lot.
Yep.
The more I do it, the more I'm starting to see it align. This podcast is kind of tying into that. I mentioned yesterday I've got a group of guys where I'm trying to lead by example, show some vulnerability, help bond, grow. From your point of view, what would you recommend as far as getting guys together, open up, create a bond, create friendships? What would your advice be?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a group of conscious men that are emerging. But many men still live in the mentality of their fathers and their grandfathers.
And that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
And so you live in that, well, we're not vulnerable. We don't share.
That's exactly where I'm coming from.
And I see that a lot. And there is a niche men who are out there that are wanting to do that. But I don't think that it's taking a specific philosophy. You know, we can be like, oh, this is our stoic group. And you can be very stoic and be, to quote Marcus Aurelius at every, you can do that. Or you can say, like for me, I have a veterans group, veterans, and we do veterans, and that's, here we go, hoorah, veterans. But I know those are great groups to bring people together to teach them something else. But what I would really say is, I don't know that one particular size fits all, right?
Okay.
Many men who come to me to get in the ice bath they don't know why they're there sometimes. Like, I'm here because someone told me I should, and maybe I need it, and I don't know. And then they realize it was really great, and they move forward with it. I think meeting people where they are is the most important thing.
Okay.
Don't meet them where you expect them to be in this healing group of men who get them together weekly to work together, because that's putting an expectation that you're projecting at that point.
Okay.
I want you to be like this if you want to be part of my group.
Gotcha.
I used to teach a class, and actually I may bring it back here. I taught it a couple months ago at the same place, called Yoga on Tap. Basically, it's yoga and a beer. Okay. So you have a beer and yoga, and the two do not necessarily go together as a very sattvic, which is like a pure practice. Sattvic is a Sanskrit term. That's a pure practice. It's not. I don't care. I want to meet people who are like, I won't ever do yoga. I don't want to do yoga. I'm not interested in yoga. But you want, babe, your girlfriend wants to invite you, whatever, and I get a beer when I'm there. Okay, well, I'll go hang out with you at your place. And then they get that small piece of spirituality, that small piece of saying, that was all right. So for you,
no pressure or expectation.
No pressure, no expectations.
I did a yoga / rosé thing last night. Exact same thing you're talking about.
Yeah, you just do that. And that's like a way to say, here, get out of your comfort zone, your place that bubble. We talked about the little bubble. Let's make way for the life that's waiting for you. And for you, getting a group of guys together to ice bathe and to do conscious practices, the way I would recommend is have them be in charge of the programming, not you. Because you're saying, what do you want to do?
Okay.
And then they'll be like, well, I really like playing guitar. Let's do like a guitar circle. Okay. Let's do like a drum circle. Let's do a guitar circle. I really like cooking. Awesome, dude. Can we do a barbecue day?
Okay.
You see what I mean?
So we got together recently and hiking came up.
There you go.
Guess what? We're going hiking.
Right.
And most of the guys are coming because of that. Because that's what they wanted. So that's going back to what you're saying. Not, hey, you got to jump in the cold and be this macho man. Yeah, I like that.
But you can certainly facilitate that as part of your programming and saying, hey, it's the group that I'm putting together. While we're here, those who would like to can. So I'm part of a group called the Veterans Walk and Talk. Okay. The Veterans Walk and Talk are hiking groups, and we offer sometimes microdosing hikes. Okay. It could be cannabis, it could be mushrooms, it could be whatever. But it's always an option. It's not about that. It's about community. It's about gathering veterans together. Yeah. To say, we're doing this together as veterans to create community brotherhood. And should you like to participate, this is your options.
Okay, I like that.
And so it's like, well, I don't play guitar. That's okay. I have one. If you want to mess with it, great. I don't play the drums. Great. I don't have any rhythm. Great. Okay. But if you want to, it's there and it's available to you. Maybe moving out of that, and I think you need to make sure you create a safe space. It's like the philosophy with psychedelics is always set and setting. So mindset has to be there, and you have to have the safe setting. So if the mindset is like, this is stupid, this is dumb, I don't want to be here, well, then you need to work on the mindset first.
Okay.
Then you work on the setting. Make sure the setting is conducive and loving and kind, and that people feel safe to be vulnerable. If you create the right set and setting, magic happens. People wanted to go into psychedelic sessions and they want to try really hard. Nothing happens. I want a breakthrough. No breakthrough happens. But when you say, here's the right mindset, letting go. It's okay to not understand. Allow. They let things flow through you. And if the setting is beautiful, the smell is good, it's the right temperature, they can relax, they have an eye mask on, they have a weighted blanket, they feel like they're just safe. And guess what? Magic happens. So set and setting are key. And I think as a leader of that or a facilitator of that, your job is not necessarily to worry about the programming as much as it is set and setting, and that noticing when things are not in alignment with that.
That's super helpful. That's very helpful.
Yeah. So for instance, when we did the ice baths, I was facilitating, sure, but I needed to do a whole lot of the things behind the scenes that made sure it was safe and that the setting was good.
Yeah.
And so that's why we did 2 different locations, because I'm doing breath work at one location wouldn't have fit everybody. The other place already had the ice bath, so it was great, but I needed to add another ice bath, right? So there was certain set and setting things that had to happen, and bringing my partner in to make sure that it was safe outside when people were warming up, because she could say, I got you, I'm gonna go get Ryan, got you, and she could sort of be my liaison because I couldn't see everybody. So there's a lot that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that is more, as a leader, your job, letting go of programming. Let people, let them have their union. You know, your job is to make sure that it's a good set and setting, and you're going to have a group that organically grows, and it's going to have the people that you want there. And they're going to reach out to you saying, hey, I've heard you guys do hikes. Well, not every week, but we have these things occasionally. This is our vision. Our vision is this, and we'd love to have you.
Okay.
Yeah. I've done some men's groups. We call them divine masculine groups. I've done them. I'm part of something called the Brotherhood of Betterment when I was in Florida. Sacred Sons is out of California. We've done several of these, and some of them have programming that I like, and some of them I don't, but it doesn't mean they're not good groups. They're the right people. Yeah.
And some people are going to resonate with certain things.
Yeah, right? I don't necessarily want to, I don't find the value, like Sacred Sons we do some rolling around and grappling, right?
Okay.
And for me, I don't find the value in that in the same way others do.
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Whereas I would love to roll and grapple.
Right.
That's my thing.
Yeah. Just not everybody finds the value in that connection.
Okay.
You know, they may feel, especially if there's someone who's never done that before.
It's super intimidating. Yeah.
Super intimidating. And they may say, hey, I don't like to be touched. Don't hug me, don't touch me.
Yeah.
So safe setting, good mindset, magic.
I love that. Yeah. Anything else you want to share before we finish up?
I think we covered really well. I think that, you know, if people want to find me, chat with me, they can find me through my clinic. Satori Health and Wellness is a great way. We're out of Southern Utah. Language of Breath Collective is our website.
Okay.
So if they want to go there. I'm on Insight Timer. Ryan Bean Yoga on Instagram is a great spot. I put a lot of content on there, TikTok, all the goods. All Ryan Bean Yoga, all of it is Ryan Bean Yoga.
When are you back in town doing the next breathwork?
We usually do it every 6 weeks. So I haven't given the exact date.
Every time? Is it going to be a Valiant and IMR? Or
yeah, we'll connect with all of them. I got invited by another group that does Holy Sheets. Familiar with them? Anyway, they're like a mattress store, but they do like monthly gatherings there for Wim Hof Method. So I may do some other ones there, which is a great one. AJ is the guy's name there. But yeah, I'll probably do it with them. I'm also looking at opening a clinic and working with my friends Danny and Jeff. Maybe opening a clinic here, Ketamine Breathwork clinic.
Okay.
We'll definitely be doing a group soon, which I'm going to do out there at the Cherry Cloud Oasis.
Yep.
That's going to happen. We're looking at a date either late March or early April to do a ketamine breath work, which for me, if I'm coming out here to do that, I will probably incorporate cold into that somehow. There's no water out there, so for me to fill up ice is really difficult. I'll probably coordinate with IMR or whatever to make sure we can do Wim Hof then. And just breathwork online. I mean, you know, like I think that's a great place to start. If you're unsure, the way I started doing yoga the first time was an online yoga class.
My breathwork's been online. I've been trying different ones and see what I like, and some I don't like, some I resonate with.
Yep. Come onto the BreathSource app, message me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out.
I'm doing a breathwork retreat, which I think that your listeners would like. I'm doing one, we're calling it Inspire Fest. Okay, so inspire, like breathing, right? Inspire. I'm doing it with my friend Jesse Coomer, and it's a language of breath, breathworkers retreat. It is the April the 28th at Homestead Ranch, which is in southern Utah. And it is a weekend retreat. You know, catering. It's a beautiful ranch. It's out in nature. We have hiking. We're basing it on the peaceful warrior theme, the Joseph Campbell sort of peaceful warrior theme, and lots of amazing things. I mean, I think it's going to be co-ed, but we're in cabins. We're in nature. We're breathing. There is a very cold lake there, so we get into that cold. It sits at about 8,000 feet, so it's going to be cold. You know, it's up in Pine Valley area of Utah. And we do have a training that's happening in Silverton, Colorado in July. So those who are interested in being certified breath workers, I do have a couple spots available for that. So if that's something that inspires you, I have 2 spots actually for that. But for Inspire Fest, I think I have like 10 spots available left for that. In addition to that, you know, I'm traveling to Alaska this year.
To Anchorage, right? Yeah.
Doing some work up there for different retreats, many retreats. And I think we're going back into this bubble. Just do something, right? If people hear what I'm saying and they're going, interesting, but I could never do it. Maybe that's your internal self saying, I got to try something.
That's why you should do it.
That's why you should. Get out and go to a retreat. Get out and go to a Wim Hof method class with me. Get out and breathe on the app with me. Show up. Just be like, I don't know why I'm going to Utah, but I am.
Yeah, that's why I keep telling people, the fact you don't want to do it is the reason why you should do it.
Yeah. So I think that retreats are the best way to experience a modality like breathwork or cold.
Plus you got the support system around you, right?
Support system. Support system. And you're going to get so much more information in a 3-day retreat than you could spend all year trying to research and learn. In 10 minutes a day of breath work on a channel on YouTube.
Not knowing who to believe, who's the right person.
Right. Yeah. Just go for like a weekend. You're going to get a lot of information. You're going to get a lot of, you know, books and manuals and resources and tools and connections and, you know, called breather buddies or whatever. You're going to get people who are accountability partners in that. You're going to learn so much that you're going to probably end up like me, where like, I want to be an instructor, right? I learned so much. You're like, I can do this. I enjoy this. I want to teach others. I want to tell people. And I think our overall message today is take a sacred pause, take a breath, deep inhale, hold it at the top for just a second, and then release it all the way down. And then hold it at the bottom. Take just a sacred pause there until you feel like you need to breathe, then you breathe in again. Hold it at the top. Notice your heart. And then let it go. Do that as many times as you need to find a sacred pause and then listen. Don't react. Listen. And that listening means listening with your heart, not with your ears. Listen with your heart. And if your heart says, I need to pick up guitar. If your heart says, I need to change jobs. If your heart says, I need to move. If your heart says, you can be happy. If your heart says, you're worth it. If your heart says, you're enough. Listen and take action.
Love it. What an amazing way to finish. Thank you. That was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, welcome.